Hey guys, thanks for joining me for Storytime again this week. Today we are going to be reading the book Muncha, Muncha, Muncha by Candace Fleming. And we are just going to jump right in and get started. For years, Mr. McGreely dreamed of planting a garden. He dreamed of getting his hands dirty, of growing yummy vegetables, and of gobbling them all up. But he never once tried it until this spring, said Mr. McGreely. This spring, by golly, I'm going to plant a garden. So he hoed and he sowed and he watched his garden grow. Lettuce, carrots, peas, tomatoes. Yum, yum, yummy, said Mr. McGreely. I'll soon fill my tummy with crisp, fresh vegetables. But one night, when the sun went down and the moon came up, 3 hungry bunnies appeared. Tippy, 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 pat. Muncha, muncha, muncha. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his gnawed sprouts, he was angry. So he built a small wire fence all around his vegetable garden. There, he declared, no bunny can get into my garden now. And the sun went down and the moon came up and tippy tippy pat, spring, hurdle, dash dash dash, muncha muncha muncha. So they hopped the fence, didn't they? The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his nibbled leaves and gnawed sprouts, he was really angry. So he built a tall wooden wall behind the small wire fence all around his vegetable garden. He huffed. Those flop ears will never get over it. No bunny can get into my garden now. And the sun went down and the moon came up and tippy tippy pat, dig, scrabble, scratch, 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 spring, hurdle, dash, 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 muncha, muncha, muncha. Oh my goodness. So they dug under the fence and jumped over the little wire fence. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his chewed stems, his nibbled leaves, and his gnawed sprouts, he was really, really angry. So he made a deep, wet trench outside the tall wooden wall behind the small wire fence all around his vegetable garden. Ha! He snorted. Those pufftails can't get under it. They can't get over it. No bunny can get into my garden now. And the sun went down and the moon came up and tippy tippy pat, dive, paddle, splash, 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 dig, scrabble, scratch, 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 spring, hurdle, dash, 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 and muncha, muncha, muncha. These are some sneaky rabbits, aren't they? The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his chomped blossoms, his chewed stems, his nibbled leaves, and his gnawed sprouts, he was furious. And that means really, really, really angry, doesn't it? So he hammered and blocked, sawed and stalked, drilled and filled, and trapped and locked. And he built a huge, enormous thing before the deep, wet trench outside the tall wooden wall behind the small wire fence all around his vegetable garden. I've outsmarted those twitch whiskers for sure, he exclaimed. They can't get through it, they can't get under it, and they can't get over it. No bunny, no way, no how can get into my vegetable garden now. And the sun went down and the moon came up and tippy tippy stop. The 3 hungry bunnies looked and smelled and touched the huge enormous thing before them, and tippy tippy pat, the bunnies hopped away. The next morning when Mr. McGreely saw his untouched vegetables, he was happy. So the bunnies couldn't get in to eat his vegetables. I beat the bunnies, he whooped and did a jiggly wiggly victory dance. Then he climbed over, jumped across, squeezed between, and crawled under until he reached his vegetable garden. Ah, sighed Mr. McGreely, at last. Smacking his lips, he pulled and picked and pulled up lettuce, carrots, peas, tomatoes, and with his basket overflowing, he reached inside for something yummy. Muncha, muncha, muncha. The end. So the bunny snuck in his basket, didn't they? See him sneaking in right there? And then they got his carrots. Okay guys, so for our craft today, we're gonna be making our very own stuffed bunnies. So what you're gonna need is a sock, some beans or uncooked rice or cotton balls, whatever you have to stuff your bunny with. You'll need a couple of rubber bands, some scissors, and you'll need an adult to help you because we will have to use a hot glue gun today. And I've got some googly eyes to glue onto our bunny and a little puff ball for its tail. Alright, so what you're going to do, you're going to take your sock. It can be any color you want. It can just be a plain white one or some kind of pretty colorful one. But what you're going to do, you're going to take your sock and you are going to cut down the middle of your sock, not too far. You're just going to cut it about that far down because these are going to be your bunny ears flopping over on the side. Okay, so after you get that cut down the middle, you are going to take your beans or whatever you have to stuff your bunny with and fill up about almost to the heel of the sock. You're just going to fill it full of your beans or whatever you're using. I'm using beans. So you're just going to fill it about like that. Alright, and after you get it filled, you're going to take one of your rubber bands and just tie it off. And that is going to be the body of your bunny. So it should look something like that. And then you are going to take more beans and fill up the head of your bunny. Okay, so I've got some more beans in there, and I'm going to take my other rubber band and tie it off. And you should end up with something like this. Okay, so that's our bunny's head and its body. And I'm going to take my little ears that I cut earlier and cut them down a little further, just down to my rubber band. So now we have some floppy ears. Okay guys, so after you get the head filled and your ears cut down to where you want them, you can go ahead and with the help of your adult glue on your eyes and your nose. And I just have a pair of googly eyes and I just cut the nose from a piece of paper. Okay, and then what you're gonna wanna do, see how your bunny's head's really floppy? You can just take some of your glue and put it right on the back of your bunny and just lay its head back onto that glue so it'll stick. Just like that. Okay? And then we just need to add the tail. So I'm gonna take my little pom-pom and add some glue to it and just stick it right on the back of my bunny. All right, just fix its ears and there is your own stuffed bunny. How cute is that? As always, be sure to send in pictures when you do your craft so we can see them, and I will see you all back next week for story time.